Well, good morning, everybody, again, and welcome to lovely Annapolis. And thank you for being here for what is the public portion of the Chesapeake Bay Program partnership. We are just coming from the private meeting that we had over at the state capitol, over in the governor's reception room, where we had just a very engaged meeting where we spoke about and received and briefly discussed the annual recommendations from our 3 advisory committees. We issued a Beyond 25 charge, which will direct the partnership's effort over the next 18 months to revise and update our existing 2014 Chesapeake Bay and Watershed Agreement. We issued a directive to create a 4th Agricultural Advisory Committee, which we are incredibly excited about. And I'm honored to now serve as the newly re-elected chair of the Executive Council for a 2nd year. So I'm very excited to continue to working with all of you and these remarkable human beings as we continue to protect what we know is the greatest heirloom that we have, which is the Bay. Something that we did not create it, we inherited it. So our job is to make sure that we protect it and that we care for it, and we pass something off even more beautiful to the next generation. And this is a group that is duly up to that task. You will hear more about each of these things shortly, but before we look to the future, I want to also take a moment just to remember how far we've come. By the late 1970s, industrialization had left the Chesapeake Bay and also the watershed devastated. There are pictures taken during this time of discarded tires inside of the Baltimore Harbor, the Anacostia River so choked with sediment that it looked like flowing mud, and steel mills that were still pumping wastewater directly into our rivers and directly to our other waterways. We have cleaned up the litter. We have regulated the industrial pollution. We've upgraded wastewater treatment plants, and now we have a deep understanding of the diffuse population sources that every single day are affecting the Chesapeake Bay. This is progress, and in progress that we've seen is only because of one reason and one word: partnership. It's progress because we all, on a federal, on a state, and a local level, have chosen to work together. Because I was laughing with my friend Governor Youngkin about it, where I said, for each one of us, we claim personal ownership of the Chesapeake Bay. And I love that. But we also are very clear when we understand that this is not just a shared blessing, it is a shared responsibility. And the reason we've been able to make the progress we've been able to make is because this region has collectively chosen to move in partnership. And so today, we are here to chart the future of the Chesapeake Bay Program and this incredibly important interstate partnership. Now, the economic importance of this work truly cannot be overstated. This is about having clean air and clean water. This is about making sure that we are protecting the animals. This is about how we are protecting all the other residual impacts of the bay. But also, let's be clear, this is also about economics. Economics for our farmers, economics for our watermen, economics for the larger region. And the Bay region generates more than $5 billion in annual tourism-related activities. The Bay fisheries produce more than $500 million of income for more than 30,000 fishermen a year. And these fishermen are Pennsylvanians, they're Virginians, they're Marylanders, they live in Delaware, New York, New Jersey. They impact all of us. And we recommend and we recognize that our overall efforts are not on track to meet some of the key pollution reduction goals by 2025. And so when we see that we are not on track to hit goals, we make sure that we can both double down on efforts and also make sure that we have a new strategy going forward, that despite the success that we have had, we know that more success is going to be required. in order for us to actually accomplish our long-term goals. And so we recognize that this work is now more challenging due to climate change, and that climate change is warming our waters. It is contributing to rising sea levels. It's increasing runoff pollution. It's adding complications to every single aspect of the Bay recovery that we all hope for and aim for. And so in Maryland, we're adjusting our Chesapeake Bay implementation strategy based on the latest science. The latest science, such as the 2023 Comprehensive Synthesis of Ecosystem Response Report, tells us that we have the opportunity to improve shallow water habitats in the near term that can help to propel the overall cleanup effort in the Bay while promoting community buy-in at the local level. And let's be clear, the focus on shallow water is not just important, it is science-based and data-driven. It allows us a unique opportunity to get wins that are necessary and allow us to recenter how we talk about individual short-term goals that can have larger long-term impacts. We're making sure that the Chesapeake Bay goals are focused on people and communities, the most directly impacted, the most who need and deserve the supports. And we need to help areas where most people and wildlife interact with the Bay, and that means shallow waters along the coast. And to truly save the Bay, we need to be more inclusive in decision-making by collaborating with diverse partners to prioritize their social and their economic well-being, that everyone must understand their role in this process, because if people feel a sense of ownership, they will also understand their responsibility to be able to do the work and serve as protectors. So a poignant example of the progress we've made thus far early this year is when people swam safely in the Baltimore Harbor during a public event for the first time in decades. Creating a powerful visualization and symbol for not just why this is important, but also that progress can actually be made. And I want to be clear, as a Baltimorean, if you would have told any of us 20 years ago that people would be swimming in the harbor, everyone would just say, and then their next stop would be the emergency room? And it wasn't. Progress is possible, but it's only possible because there is collective efforts. This approach of putting communities first can produce faster and more localized benefits. It also creates more opportunities for the public to support and get involved inside the work. And so when we say that the theme of our work is partnership, we mean that. And so I'm incredibly grateful to all of our partners inside this work, incredibly grateful to be here with Governor Youngkin and the great work that's happening in Virginia. Incredibly grateful. I know my friend Governor Shapiro, because of the fog. Hey, Josh. I know because of the fog, unfortunately, he was not able to get down here. But as always, and I'll say it again, Josh, we could not be here without the leadership that you in Pennsylvania have also continued to show. This is what it looks like when we have a united front to solve a big problem. That progress is actually possible, and it is happening. So before I provide each of my colleagues on the Executive Council some time to make remarks, I want to first turn it over to Martha Shimkin, who's the director of the EPA Chesapeake Bay Program Office, to provide us a brief update on the program. Martha, thank you so much, and good morning to you.
Now? Yes. Well, good morning, and it is an honor to be here today. To describe the state of the Chesapeake Bay Program, I use one word: resilient. And I define that word as adapting to challenges and moving forward with hope for the future. This hope is rooted in the strength of our partnership. Together, we achieve meaningful results by coordinating efforts, leveraging expertise, and advancing cutting-edge science. Collaboration spanning federal, state, and local governments, along with organizations and individuals, is the heart of our progress. Thanks to this collective effort, many rivers, streams, and lands are rebounding, bringing measurable benefits to ecosystems, economies, and communities. Yet with 2025 almost here, we are fully aware of the challenges that remain. I am confident that we are up to the task. The ambitious goals of the Chesapeake Bay Watershed Agreement have driven real progress, even as we adapt to increasing environmental stressors. At last year's Executive Council meeting, the partnership committed to accelerating efforts in areas key to leaning in and accomplishing more towards the goals in our current agreement. We said that we would work more on forest buffers and tree canopy. This year, we were able to report planting more than 2,500 acres of community trees, the highest number since tracking began in 2014. These results reflect success of investments and leadership and buffer programs, enabling faster and more effective planting. We said we would focus on wetlands. A new wetland strategy has been created and is now championed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, as well as all the partners who are part of this. This strategy is targeting resilient restoration projects, and new funding and expertise are driving these critical efforts. Said we would do more on non-point sources, and there is so much going on that we're still trying to get our hands around, but there's so much going on with non-point sources. Addressing agricultural runoff and stormwater pollution remains a priority. The just established Agriculture Advisory Committee is an important step to scaling up and targeting solutions. And we committed to planning forward. Over the past 18 months, I had the privilege of co-leading with Annapolis, Executive Director of the Commission, Chesapeake Bay Commission, to leading a steering committee to chart a future path for this program. We had a 29-member committee that drew on input from hundreds of partners and stakeholders. Together, we identified key focus areas for deeper consideration as we made our recommendations: climate, people, clean water, living resources, and healthy habitats. And ultimately, we came up with 2 recommendations that we gave to the Principal Staff Committee: amend and update the existing Chesapeake Bay Agreement, and keep the partnership strong while streamlining and simplifying. I am grateful to the Principal Staff Committee for accepting the Beyond 2025 Steering Committee report and forwarding their recommendations today to the Executive Council. These recommendations set a positive path forward for the Chesapeake Bay Program. I also deeply appreciate the strong bipartisan support from Congress. Throughout this planning effort and throughout the history of this program, through letters of support, opportunities for briefing, and ongoing legislative and financial support, you have kept this program strong and effective, along with the whole partnership, and thank you. As Dana Atkins of the Chickahominy Tribe and chair of the EPA Regional Tribal Operations Committee recently reminded us at a meeting that EPA held with that committee, stewardship of this watershed has been a shared responsibility for generations, from the indigenous peoples who were first stewards of the bay and the land around it, to the experts and leaders of today. It is both our duty and our privilege to protect, conserve, and restore the Chesapeake Bay and its watershed. Together, we will meet this charge, ensuring a cleaner, safer, and more resilient Chesapeake Bay and watershed for generations to come. Thank you. And I believe I am supposed to now have the honor of asking the Honorable Glenn Youngkin, Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, to give remarks.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for giving us a great comprehensive update. Governor Moore, thank you for hosting today. Governor Shapiro, nice to see you. And I understand the fog because it stretched from Richmond to here. And so we're sorry you're not here, but we fully understand. I'd also like to thank all of our federal partners I'd like to thank Delegate Bulova for your leadership, a fellow Virginian. And by the way, I nominated Governor Moore, and Delegate Bulova seconded the nomination, so Virginians did their job today. I would also like to thank our Secretary of Natural and Historic Resources, Travis Voiles, for your great leadership. Thank you, sir, for all you do for the Commonwealth and for the Bay. And welcome to everyone who is here today. Everyone here shares a common commitment, a commitment to a Bay that not only represents a shared responsibility, but it also represents a shared future. I have to say, as a young man, I grew up on the Chesapeake Bay. I grew up in Hampton Roads, and I carry with me every day a deep passion for it, and therefore the opportunity to serve with this esteemed group, to chart the future of what 2025 can mean, and most importantly, to preserve and protect this cherished resource has been a top priority of mine since the day I had the great privilege of placing my hand on a Bible and saying, "So help me God." And so thank you for this opportunity. I have repeatedly urged us to address the needs of the Chesapeake Bay with great practicality and urgency. I've asked us to pursue measures over models. I've asked us to set goals that are achievable. I've asked us to lock arms and achieve them. And that, to me, is something that we must constantly remind ourselves, that achievable goals that then are commitments to be realized is at the heart of our efforts going forward. I have to say that we have to not only continue to build on the existing progress that we have seen in the Bay, and we have to not hit the reset button. And that means streamlining, that means focusing, that means clarity in our objectives, and that means delivering. And to me, that is the top of our priority list. I also know that what that means is the charge that we have just taken up and approved includes 2 directives that are critical to move forward with. And as part of that commitment, I am urging us with every ounce of appropriate wording that we get on with this. And by this time next year, we will have completed those 2 objectives, and we will be through planning and into progressing. And that is, I think, our collective challenge, but also the opportunity. Our administration is prepared. We are prepared to do the important work that's necessary to revise the 2014 Chesapeake Bay Watershed Agreement and streamline the Chesapeake Bay Program partnership structure in that timely manner. And as we look beyond 2025, we are committed to the future of this partnership, understanding that productive action focuses on policies and principles that embrace effective government, accountability, and the way that we are going to prioritize funding. We also know that voluntary incentive-based approaches that work with our farmers are critical as opposed to working against them. And that's why I'm so pleased that we have added this advisory council that represents our agriculture community and gives them a critical voice in this process. We have to continue to work with this agriculture community to accomplish our water quality goals through these voluntary approaches that allow our farmers to make conservation improvements while maintaining the viability of their businesses. And for the Commonwealth of Virginia, where our agriculture sector is the largest private industry in the entire Commonwealth, this has always been a top priority. When I had the great privilege of taking office in January 2022, we assessed the then goals and plan and funding of the Commonwealth's participation in our collective efforts to reach the 2025 goals. And I recognized at the time that, one, we weren't going to meet them. 2, that the goals were unrealistic. 3, that the plan was unclear. And 4, the funding was wholly inadequate. And I challenge us all to embrace the totality of that mutually reinforcing equation, that we must have goals that are clear and attainable, plans that allow us to attain them, and yes, financial support in order to make it happen. With the help of my friends in our General Assembly, starting in that exact year, we went to work. We offered historic levels of funding for our conservation efforts, including agricultural best management practices. And for the first time, in 2022, we fully funded the agricultural needs assessment, and we have done it every year since. And as long as I'm governor and I have a General Assembly, which I think David will help me with, I'm committed to do that. We've also funded record investments in our wastewater upgrades. These 2 giant measures, which are hugely costly, have been stated as a priority to allow us to make substantial progress against those goals. These efforts have resulted in record nitrogen reduction from the agricultural sector in 2023, as well as an increased participation in the Virginia Agricultural Cost Share Program, which closed fiscal year 2024 with 574 new participants statewide. Additionally, just last week, I issued Executive Directive 10, which acknowledges the Commonwealth's critical role in the Chesapeake Bay restoration efforts through launching a series of strategic initiatives. As I've said, the Chesapeake Bay is not just vital, it's cherished, but it is a vital part, as Governor Moore emphasized, of Virginia's economic engine. And it's a huge destination for tens of thousands of tourists who visit Virginia every year. Over the last 3 years, my administration has pressed for change and targeted investments, and we are now seeing those results. And we are seeing them encourage us to not only prioritize additional investment, but targeted at those areas that have the greatest impact. In addition to nutrient reductions, substantial investments and improvements have been made in the areas of blue crab abundance, oyster restoration, and protected lands. We plan to continue fostering progress through the establishment of a statewide technical wetlands team, a blue ribbon oyster panel, a forward-thinking, longer-term management approach to ensure the sustainability of our blue crab population. And I know all of us will enjoy abundant oysters, abundant crabs, and great seafood for decades and decades to come. I said recently that the Chesapeake Bay was the crown jewel of Virginia's abundant natural resources. I can't stress it enough. It represents an iconic piece of the Commonwealth that has, as I said, a personal connection to me. I have to say that its rivers and tributaries that feed it do the same. And the many people who enjoy not just recreation, but a livelihood from these rivers and tributaries are equally at the table with us. And therefore, the word partnership, which the governor emphasized, can only be a reminder to all of us that single purpose efforts are important, but partnership compounds effectiveness and allows us to realize the tremendous results that we've seen over the last couple years. I reiterate my strong belief that we must pursue measures, not models. We have to set goals that are achievable. We have to go to work addressing those goals and objectives. And to ensure this, we have to get moving. And I look forward to sitting together next year moving past phase 2 and into the moments where we realize substantial progress in preserving and protecting the great Chesapeake Bay. Thank you. Now it's my privilege to pass to yet another Commonwealth, Governor Shapiro from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Great. Hey, Governor Youngkin, thank you very much. And thank you for your impassioned comments and your love of the Bay, and appreciate very much the opportunity to be with you. And Governor Moore, thank you so much for convening us here today, for your great leadership and your friendship and partnership on this and many other issues. And fellow members and delegates of the Chesapeake Bay Commission Executive Council, thank you. I want to say a special thanks to 3 members of my cabinet who join you today: Secretary Russell Redding, Secretary Dunn, and Secretary Shirley. I appreciate the great work they do every day. I want to say I'm sorry, as was referenced earlier, that I couldn't be with you in person. The weather in Pennsylvania and seemingly in other states prevented me from getting to Annapolis. But hear me on this. It is important for me to participate in this conversation because for a long time, Pennsylvania was on the sidelines. And now Pennsylvania is in the game. And Governor Moore, I would point out, we are in the game in the spirit of the Steelers. We're in the game in the spirit of the Steelers and the Eagles and the way they were in the game against the Ravens the last few months. I'm sorry for that. I know you'll get me back for that one. Look, I think cleaning up an entire watershed, one that spans 6 states in the District of Columbia and contains over 100,000 rivers and streams, it's obviously a monumental task. And I am grateful to each of you and the many people in your states who do this work every day. Because while this is a big task, it's also a great example, as the governors have said, of what is possible when we all work together. And I want to stress, we are working together, and Pennsylvania is now a partner in that effort. It's important not just across different levels of government within one state, but across state lines and with the federal government too. This is hard work, but I think it's clear, especially based on the comments you heard from Governor Moore and Governor Youngkin, we are making a lot of progress. In July, a bunch of folks who I know are in the room today joined me in Harrisburg to unveil the 2024 Chesapeake Bay Watershed Report Card. This year, the Chesapeake Bay got its highest grade in 22 years. And the portion of the bay that the Susquehanna River flows into, the same river that flows right past the governor's residence here in Harrisburg, got the 2nd best grade of the entire watershed and showed some of the strongest improvement of anywhere in the region. The Susquehanna is the largest river in Pennsylvania and contributes about half of the fresh water that flows into the Chesapeake. I'm proud of that progress, and I want to talk a little bit about how we've done it here in the Commonwealth. But I think it's important for folks to realize this is not just about the Bay. It's also about the Pennsylvanians who rely on our streams and rivers every day for clean drinking water, who work in tourism, which is a major economic driver for us, or who just get outside and experience our incredible natural beauty. It's also about safeguarding a constitutional right here in Pennsylvania. Article 1, Section 27 of our Commonwealth's Constitution states that every Pennsylvanian has a right to clean air and pure water. My administration takes seriously our responsibility to protect that right, to defend the freedom to breathe clean air and drink pure water, and create a better Commonwealth for our children and our grandchildren. Our team at the Department of Environmental Protection, led by Jessica Shirley, the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, led by Secretary Dunn, who I call Secretary Fun Dunn, and the Department of Agriculture, led by Secretary Redding, have worked hard together to identify trouble spots along our waterways, to engage local partners, and to drive dollars out to clean up our streams and creeks and rivers. And we're doing this work alongside our farmers and our communities. And I appreciate the comments especially from Governor Youngkin, about engaging our farmers in this process as opposed to working against them. We've helped our ag producers invest in more sustainable infrastructure that keeps chemicals out of our waterways while creating a more prosperous ag sector. And we've invested in our outdoor recreation economy by building forest buffers to protect Pennsylvania's streams and rivers, while making upgrades to wastewater treatment facilities that will prevent stormwater from carrying harmful nutrients downstream after a major rainfall. Since 2019, and my predecessor, Governor Wolf, deserves some credit for this, Pennsylvania has invested approximately $1 billion in Chesapeake Bay restoration efforts. In the same time period, the agriculture industry has reduced nitrogen runoff by more than 6 million pounds. We've opened 3 new state parks in the Chesapeake Bay Watershed that protect 3,500 acres along our waterways. We've planted, get this, 834 miles of buffers along rivers and streams, more than half of all buffers planted in the entire Chesapeake Bay watershed since 2019. And we've restored more than 100 miles of streams to water quality standards. Let me tell you a story about just one of those streams. It's called Turtle Creek in Union County, because I actually think it is a great example of how we've worked together to accomplish this. For Turtle Creek, it all started when a landowner, Josh Sadison, walked into the Union County Conservation District office just to ask for help because he was losing his pasture to erosion. The local conservation team brought in partners from the state, including DEP, and we put together a project team to examine the site and implement a stream bank stabilization plan to prevent further pasture loss, and at the same time, improve the water quality of Turtle Creek. When Josh's neighbors saw the improvements, they wanted the same benefits on their lands, and they voluntarily joined in the work to restore Turtle Creek. They used log and rock structures to stabilize stream banks. They installed fences to keep livestock away from the edges of the streams and reseeded the banks with native plants. Those plants' roots will provide long-term stability for the stream banks while also soaking up nutrients from manure and fertilizer runoff so it doesn't then wash into the stream. Because of this work, Turtle Creek was officially removed from the Clean Water Act impairs water list just a few months ago. We're really proud of that. And by working together, the community restored the creek's water quality and habitat while actually benefiting the working farms and agriculture landscape that surrounds it. It was a huge win for Union County. And since Turtle Creek feeds into the Susquehanna River, it was ultimately a win for the Chesapeake Bay too. Look, that's just one example of how the work we are doing, the work that we are funding in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania at the state level, is having its intended impact. I think it is important to note that at this moment, I'm the only governor in the nation with a divided legislature. I share that with you because in order for us to get anything done in the Commonwealth, it requires votes from Republicans and Democrats. And the Chesapeake Bay has been an example of one of those issues that has brought Democrats and Republicans together to fund these important efforts. And as a result of that bipartisan work, we are seeing real results and improvements in the Chesapeake Bay. And at the same time, we're building a more sustainable future for Pennsylvania agriculture and, of course, for outdoor recreation. Today, this council is doubling down on that work to support farmers and protect our watershed by establishing the Agriculture Advisory Committee. This committee will bring together farmers, including urban farmers, and other agriculture experts and stakeholders to advise the Chesapeake Bay Program on how we can engage and support farmers who want to reap the benefits of cleaning up their local waterways like we did in Union County with Josh. Pennsylvania's experience shows how much we benefit when we make agriculture an integral part of the conversations about the health of the watershed. Look, I think we've got to reject the false choice between supporting farmers and protecting our watershed. We can do both, and we must do both, and we are doing both. I'm glad to see the Chesapeake Bay program making this a priority in the years to come. And I look forward to seeing the committee's work in action. My administration is proud of the progress we've made, and we're proud to be at the table with Governor Youngkin and more, and we're going to continue to do this work for years to come. Hear me on this. Pennsylvania is all in. We're at the table again, and I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues, and I'm confident we will be able to make meaningful progress together. I look forward to working with all of you to restore the Chesapeake Bay for generations to come. And now it's my pleasure to hand it over to Chesapeake Bay Commission Chair David Bulova for his remarks. Thank you all very, very much, and I look forward to the rest of the conversation.
Thank you very much, Governor Shapiro. I want to tell you how much I appreciate your work and your partnership, and how much we appreciated your hospitality when you hosted the Chesapeake Bay Commission at our quarterly meeting at the state capitol in Pennsylvania back in September 2023. So thank you very much. And I also wanted to recognize and say thank you to the staff members of the Chesapeake Bay Commission, led by Anna Kilias, our executive director. So thank you. You are the lifeblood for all this work. So I'm honored to be here today to represent the 21 members of the Tri-State Chesapeake Bay Commission. A majority of our commission members are elected state legislators like myself. We hail from Maryland, we hail from Virginia, we hail from Pennsylvania, and when we meet, we leave politics and partisanship at the door. We realize that protecting the Chesapeake Bay is much greater than that. It's about leaving a legacy and passing on this precious resource to future generations. The commission is unique, and it is the only member of the Executive Council that represents the legislative branch of government. For our governors, I know that the only thing more joyous than the holiday season is when the legislature convenes back into session, right? I've had the pleasure of sitting on the Chesapeake Bay Commission for the last 10 years, and during that time I've witnessed the power of that partnership in driving the science, in driving the sound policy, and I think it was mentioned earlier, driving the funding that is critical to the Chesapeake Bay restoration effort. I've also witnessed firsthand on more than one occasion the power of the personal relationships we've developed in tackling complicated challenges and moving our restoration effort forward. Our partnership has been a genuine success. We are an international model for watershed-based conservation. We've upgraded wastewater treatment systems. We've made tangible progress in restoring our oyster populations. We've increased public access to our waterways. And while we have not achieved all of our goals, it is vitally important for us to recognize that we set 2025 as a deadline, not the finish line. We knew that we would need to continue our work. Over the coming year, the Bay Program will take on the weighty task of refreshing our watershed agreement to reflect the ever-evolving challenges faced by our 64,000 square mile watershed. And rather than shying away from that challenge, we welcome the work ahead and the recommendations offered by our principal staff committee. Not one of the recommendations backs away from our group effort. Instead, they lean in on the science and the partnership-driven action that is the Chesapeake program is known for. Importantly, beyond 2025 will take more than money, even though that's very important. It will take innovation, it will take knowledge, and it will take trust. Innovation has always been a hallmark of the Chesapeake Bay program. And it's important, I think, as you've seen from a theme today, that we ensure that we are organized in a way that fosters and does not stifle that innovation. This is why I was glad to be a signatory of today's directive establishing the Agriculture Advisory Committee. In doing so, we acknowledge that outside expertise is needed to address the challenges ahead. The agriculture industry plays a key role in the success of all of our jurisdictions, and I am hopeful that the advisory committee can help us identify new and innovative solutions to a healthier bay. We've also seen innovation play out by learning from one another. An example in Virginia this year was the adoption, with the help of Governor Youngkin, of a $20 million Pay for Outcomes initiative designed to increase cost efficiency, accountability, and innovation by engaging the private sector and fostering competition.
And Governor, here's a little secret. While the initiative was spearheaded by Virginia's delegation to the Bay Commission, I will readily admit that the idea actually came from the Pay for Outcomes programs already enacted in Maryland and Pennsylvania. We've seen similar successes in reducing sources of PFAS in our water and increasing funding to help our farmers implement agricultural best management practices. I'm especially proud that Pennsylvania, led by the Commission's Strong Pennsylvania delegation, took a leading role in establishing the Pennsylvania Clean Streams program. However, innovation and knowledge sharing would not be possible without the trust that underpins our relationships. Our partnership is built on trust that's been established over 4 decades of work, and we must continue to care for and strengthen that foundation. Our vision for a healthy watershed means delivering what our natural resources need. Clean water, yes, absolutely. But it also means healthy habitats, conserved lands, and thriving living resources. And at the heart of all of our efforts must be connecting people to their natural environments at the local level. It is, after all, people who are the agents of the Bay's future health and the beneficiaries of its enormous blessings. The Chesapeake Bay Commission is committed to continuing our work for all the people that we represent. We owe future generations no less. Finally, I want to congratulate Governor Moore on his election as chair of this Executive Council for the coming year. The Chesapeake Bay Commission stands ready to working with you, meeting our mutual goals. So thank you very much, Governor. And now, it is my pleasure to be able to turn the mic over to EPA's Acting Deputy Administrator, Jane Nishida.
Thank you, David. It's an honor to be here, and I also want to thank Governor Moore, Governor Youngkin, Governor Shapiro, the representatives from the District of Columbia, Delaware, West Virginia, New York, and to all who have gathered here in person, remotely, and for those who haven't gathered here but play an important role in terms of the protection and the restoration of the Chesapeake Bay Program. I wanted to also do a special shout out to Martha Shinkman in EPA, who has served as our Chesapeake Bay Director for all the tremendous efforts that she has given to the Bay Program. And I also wanted to take this moment to actually deviate from my prepared remarks to talk a little bit about the history. When I was 2, I actually was involved in the original Chesapeake Bay Program in 1983. And so it has been just incredible to see the progress that has been made since I was involved in the Chesapeake Bay Program in 1983. And so I just wanted to acknowledge all the efforts that have been put in to the Bay Program because of the dedication of the state governments, the dedication of the local governments, of the NGOs, of the agricultural community, of the business community, and most importantly, because of the public. When we first started the Bay Program in 1983, our focus was on point sources. And so we had goals, just like obviously the Beyond 2025 program had with regards to addressing point sources. That was the easy part of addressing some of the achievements in terms of the Bay Program. But now we are dealing with more challenging issues with regards to non-point sources. We've talked today about the contributions that the agricultural community will play, and we also at EPA applaud the announcement of the Agricultural Advisory Committee. I know our regional administrator, Adam Ortiz, has spent many hours, many days in Pennsylvania in particular, visiting agricultural communities and learning firsthand, again, the challenges and the opportunities to address agricultural runoff. But it's not just agricultural runoff in terms of non-point sources, it's also the other non-point sources in terms of stormwater. and land use. This was raised in our private meeting earlier today with our advisory committees in terms of the role that we, the public, play in terms of contributing to not only the problem of the Bay, but also to its solutions. And so I wanted to, I guess, now turn to the partnership portion of the dynamics, the two Ps that are driving the Chesapeake Bay Program, the progress that we need to continue to do under 2025, but also the partnerships that are going to be so fundamental to be successful in achieving our goals with regards to beyond 2025. So I want to recognize again the local government advisory committee, the scientific and technical advisory committee, the stakeholder advisory committee for the important roles that they play. We heard today in our private meeting some very important recommendations that each of the committees made to the Executive Council. We have charged the Principal Staff Committee, the PSC, to take those recommendations and to see which ones we can enact. But the other important player, as I mentioned, is the public. And we also talked about that in terms of the private meeting today. We talked about the 90-year-old grandmother or the 5-year-old child in terms of understanding how they are, again, contributing not only to the problems of the Bay, but to the solutions of the Bay. And I just wanted to end on a note that, again, 40 years ago, when I was only 2 years old, there was an initiative that was launched by the Chesapeake Bay Foundation where they took a stencil and on the stormwater drains, and they said, this ends up in the Chesapeake Bay. And it was a reminder to that 90-year-old or that 5-year-old that what they were doing on their lawns or on their streets, those activities all ended up into the Chesapeake Bay. And so I would just like to, again, urge all of us that this is a collective resource, one, as was mentioned by David, that has international recognition, one that since at EPA I've visited other watershed programs, and I know that other watershed programs have used the Chesapeake Bay as a model in terms of what they are doing, not only in terms of their goals, but in terms of their partnerships that they have, not only with the public, with the scientific community, and with all the stakeholders here in this room. And so I just wanted to again, applaud the Chesapeake Bay Program for all the progress that has been made in those 40 years, but to say we have many opportunities and challenges ahead in the next 40 years, and the EPA stands as a solid partner in helping us to achieve that progress. And with that, I want to turn to my former colleague at EPA and now in Delaware, Sean McGarvin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Administrator. It's always a pleasure to see you, and you know, we have crossed a lot of paths in a lot of different places, and so your continued support in this effort and many other things is greatly appreciated. Governor Moore, Governor Youngkin, Governor Shapiro, the rest of our colleagues. Governor Carney wanted me to send his regrets, his regards, and Delaware's commitment to the Chesapeake Bay. Like Delaware, the Chesapeake Bay Partnership has faced many challenges, including adaptation to climate change and land use changes. But like the first state, the partnership continues to rise to these challenges, creating a more effective partnership by building more climate resiliency in its practices and working with local communities. With continued support and belief in our mission, we are moving into Beyond 2025 Phase 2 to strengthen the partnership while also streamlining or focusing our efforts. Over the next 2 years, outcome structures and governance will be evaluated and revised the partnership in Phase 2. Engagement of more communities, such as the agricultural communities through the newly formed Agricultural Advisory Committee, will support living resources and habitat while still prioritizing water quality. Although Delaware may not fully meet our 2025 goals, we continue to work towards commitments to load reductions through new programs that prioritize best management practices. Programs such as our Delaware Community Conservation Assistance Program, which engages urban landowners, homeowners associations, and community spaces, including schools and churches, to become involved in implementing water quality projects. Additionally, our buffer incentive program has been successful in helping to establish riparian forest buffers in collaboration with our Trees for Every Delawarean initiative. We are also able to expand the program to include riparian grass buffers this past year, targeting load reduction goals. Lastly, Delaware continues to strengthen its ties with local nonprofit and conservation-specific groups, such as the Nanticoke Watershed Alliance, Delaware Wildlands, and Shore Rivers. Working with these groups, we can make impactful changes in some of the most challenging, underserved, and high-priority areas in our portion of the Chesapeake Bay Watershed. Receiving support from the state to match our federally funded efforts in these areas, we can offer more to underserved and hard-to-reach communities. We are making a difference in our own state as well as throughout the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Mr. Chair, if I could have a moment of personal privilege. So this is my last official Chesapeake Bay meeting activity. I've been engaged officially 27 straight years at both EPA and the state of Delaware. And I just want to underscore kind of a lot of the conversation today that we had at the initial meeting and a lot of comments at the dais today has really focused on people and partnership. This month is the 14th anniversary of the Bay TMDL. Was the first kind of regulatory structure that was introduced to a very long history of voluntary practices. I think Chuck Herrick today, chair of the Stakeholders Advisory Council, mentioned that he tracked something back to the 1700s where there was a partnership between Maryland and Virginia on the Chesapeake Bay. But that was really the first true test of that partnership. And there's a lot of people in this room, a lot of people watching, and a lot of people who aren't here who spent a lot of time and hour and energy putting that together. And the main goal of all of that, as we went through that regulatory structure, was to continue to keep everybody at the table, to continue to keep that partnership. So I want to recognize all the incredible work that has led us to this point. And as we talk about the challenges that we still have, I think we need to recognize all the incredible work that has been done by the jurisdictions, the federal government, Chesapeake Bay Commission, and everybody, all the volunteers and the groups and making this effort forward. So I have complete confidence as we move towards beyond 2025, that partnership will remain strong. The people will still stay committed, and we'll find a way to get us to the next steps. And so thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I may live right now in the Delaware estuary. My heart will still always be with the Chesapeake Bay. So thank you. Now, it is my honor and privilege to introduce Director of DC's Department of Energy and Environment, my friend Richard Jackson.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for me being here on behalf of Mayor Muriel Bowser, representing the District of Columbia. So, as we look ahead to beyond 25 charge, challenges to us affect and engage the people of the Chesapeake Bay as active stewards of a healthy and resilient Chesapeake Bay. This responsibility requires everyone, governments, urban communities, local leaders, and our nonprofit partners to be a part of that solution. It's critical to recognize that while we all share the same overarching goals of restoring the Chesapeake Bay, each of us comes to this challenge with different perspectives, challenges, and opportunities. Whether it's the unique needs of rural agriculture, the growing role of urban farming, which is big in DC, or the various economic and social contexts of the communities involved, our shared goal must be approached with an understanding of these differences. By leveraging these diverse perspectives, we can create more innovative, inclusive, and effective solutions. As we move forward, our strategies must be grounded in the most recent science and data. Since the watershed was signed in 2014, we've learned more about the Bay. its watershed, and the pressures it faces. The efforts must adapt to these new realities and incorporate the best available science. This is a critical piece of our work, especially when it comes to making measurable, time-bound progress on outcomes like nutrient and sediment load reductions, particularly in non-point source pollution. The timeframes from these reductions need to be ambitious, but also realistic enough to ensure that we are making real progress as quickly as possible. With the establishment of the Agriculture Advisory Committee, the district wants to emphasize that urban agriculture is a tool for environmental stewardship, community building, and resilience. Our urban farms contribute to water quality, reduce stormwater runoff, and provide us with green spaces. Together, we can elevate conservation at a guiding pillar of the program, improve our science, and engage every community as an active steward of the Bay. By setting clear, measurable goals and adopting our strategies as new information emerges, we will not only meet the challenges we face today, but also ensure a healthier, more resilient Chesapeake Bay for generations to come. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to West Virginia Deputy Secretary Scott Mandela for his remarks.
Thank you, Richard. And thank you, Governor Moore, for hosting this event. And thank you to all of the Executive Committee for this opportunity on behalf of Governor Justice. West Virginia and our partners are steadfast in our commitment to protecting and preserving our natural resources. As we approach 2025, I am incredibly proud to announce that West Virginia is on track to meet and exceed our sediment and nutrient goals for the Chesapeake Bay Watershed. This achievement highlights what is possible when all Bay partners come together in a spirit of collaboration and shared purpose. While there's more work to do, we remain dedicated to coordinating with our downstream neighbors to ensure clean water, expand recreational opportunity, and protect this one-of-a-kind resource for future generations to enjoy. Focusing on accomplishments, again, West Virginia is immensely proud to announce that it will achieve its nutrient and sediment planning targets through efforts across the entire Chesapeake Bay watershed. The Chesapeake Bay is trending in a direction we should all take pride in. Speaking of partnership, I would be remiss if I didn't mention all of the great work West Virginia Agriculture Department has done as our partner at the DEP. Moving forward, as we move beyond 2025, West Virginia is committed to continue our efforts to improve our aquatic resources and the lives of those who live and work in West Virginia's Chesapeake Bay region. This partnership has shown a considerable ability to adapt. As new science emerges, we grasp a better understanding of the natural world around us. It is with this ability to adapt with an open mind that we will be able to move forward and continue to move the needle in a positive direction. It is only through this collaborative effort with all of our partners and stakeholders that we can ensure this truly one-of-a-kind resource will be around for generations to come. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to invite New York Acting Deputy Commissioner for Water Resources, Carol Lamb-LaFay, to give remarks.
Thank you. This is my first meeting at the Chesapeake Bay Partnerships, but I'm not new to stormwater and not new to the reductions that are expected of New York. I came up through the programs, was overseeing our New York's stormwater program and our NIPD's permitting program, where we incorporated the nutrient reduction goals for our wastewater and are constantly trying to learn on new and better ways to evolve our stormwater program. The point source program is, at some respects, much easier to get the reductions that we need to see. The non-point source programs, where we rely heavily on a community and engagement, is much more difficult. So I'm really happy to see how the advisory committees are incorporated into the Chesapeake Bay program, because without those boots on the ground, we're dead in the water. We would never receive, or at least achieve, the reductions in New York. Being so remote, we don't have the same engagement of our communities on the bay, but we do have the engagement of clean water, and when clean water wins, we all win. I actually grew up in the southern tier on the Susquehanna, and didn't really even know that we were part of the Chesapeake Bay. So we're doing a lot to educate our communities to understand the importance and how water, it is a one water program. You know, water knows no boundaries, and New York is committed to our responsibility to the Chesapeake Bay and to clean water in general. As the home to the headwaters to the Susquehanna River, we understand the importance of our efforts to protect and enhance these headwaters and how it plays a critical role in the restoration effort. I am also pleased to say that we are projected to achieve the targets for nitrogen and phosphorus reductions over the, thank you. So we have seen over 5 million pounds of nitrogen reduction, which is a big deal, especially in freshwaters, because we don't think that much about nitrogen, and almost 1 million pounds of total phosphorus, with the majority of those coming from the ag community and the wastewater sectors. The southern tier of New York is somewhat depressed. We've lost a lot of industry in the southern tier, and so the ag community is the largest proponent or portion of New York's contribution. So I'm definitely very happy to hear that we have the advisory committee that we voted in, because again, having those boots on the ground and having the advice of people who have to implement these programs is really critical to our success. We also find that the Chesapeake Bay has been a model for other programs in New York State, which helps us to get that collective buy-in of our communities. The innovative strategies and the collaborative approaches we've developed in the Chesapeake Bay are successfully being applied to other watersheds in New York State, such as in the Finger Lakes, Lake Champlain, Mohawk and Hudson Rivers, and Long Island Sound. Nutrient pollution is common across the board, and that the work that we're doing in the Chesapeake Bay is really far-reaching. It goes well beyond just the boundaries of the Chesapeake Bay. Much of the work that originated out of this partnership has contributed to or served as the model for our statewide programs, and the shared resources and partnership enable the states to accomplish much more than we could ever do individually. If it was left to a state, we would never be where we are today. New York is committed to clean water. In New York, we have made historic investments in clean water and climate resiliency, including billions of dollars through our Clean Water Infrastructure Act and the Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act of 2022. We have invested just last year $6.8 million in ag non-point source grants, as well as $25 million in wastewater treatment plant upgrades to achieve the new targets for nitrogen and phosphorus. Looking ahead, New York remains committed to expanding our existing partnerships, including with the Chesapeake Bay Program, local governments and farmers and residents working together, investing in nature-based solutions, applying lessons learned in the watershed to all watersheds across New York State, and advancing science-based standards, including numeric nutrient criteria, which has been 20 years in the making in New York, and we are expecting to come out with proposed guidance values in the upcoming months. So for New York, this work is more than a regulatory obligation. It is a vital opportunity to protect the water resources, support our communities, and sustain ecosystems for future generations. It's not easy, but progress is possible, and you know, we are proud of the progress we've made together, and we look forward to continuing the work to protect and restore water quality, including that of the Chesapeake Bay. So I'd like to thank you, thank all the people in the Chesapeake Bay Program, the PSC, and the Executive Committee, and you, Governor Moore, for your leadership in bringing all these folks together, because it is not easy, but as you had said, progress is possible. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And before I give my concluding remarks and also open up to questions, I would love to invite one of the true champions of the Bay to also be able to say a few words. Congressman John Sarbanes has been an absolute warrior for the Bay. And it wasn't just in his time in elected office, it was before that as well. And so even though I know we only have a few more weeks to have him as a member of the Congress as he moves on to his next great endeavors, I just want to say with a deep level of not just appreciation, Congressman, for all the leadership you've shown towards the Bay, but also a deep level of anticipation about how your continued work will continue to support the Bay. So with all respect and gratitude, I want to introduce Congressman John Sarbanes.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Very much appreciated. This is an inspirational day in so many different ways. I'm here with two hats on. One is as a member of the Maryland delegation, which obviously is extremely proud of the efforts that we've undertaken here in Maryland as part of this partnership. But I'm also here as a member of a broader delegation. We call it the Chesapeake Bay delegation. I'm co-chair of the Chesapeake Bay Watershed Task Force, which works in Congress across the aisle, Democrats, Republicans, representatives from all of these various jurisdictions that have a stake in the fortune of the Bay. And we've worked very hard over the past few years to make sure that the funding is strong for this effort. The co-chairs, by the way, include two people from Virginia, Bobby Scott and Rob Whitman, who've done an amazing job, Andy Harris from here in Maryland, and I know the efforts of that task force will continue and to be as supportive as possible. Obviously, I'm very thankful for this amazing partnership, to see all the jurisdictions with this renewed commitment as we head into the coming years. It's so vitally important. The work that has gone into this has been amazing. So really the rest of these remarks, which will be less than 60 seconds, are to thank all the people that are involved, the Executive Council members for the incredible work, and again, that kind of recommitment today, to the Principal Staff Committee, to the Management Board, the Beyond 2025 Steering Committee. A salute to Martha Shimkin and to Annapolis for leading that effort, and obviously the Chesapeake Bay Commission is such a critical component of this effort. And then to all the advocates and stakeholders, many of whom are in this room, who've made the partnership possible over these past years. Based on what the Council is agreeing to today, the new charge, I'm very optimistic about what that means to continued progress with respect to the Chesapeake Bay. And I can tell you, on behalf of the delegation and on behalf of the delegation as it moves forward, the Congressional Bay delegation across these states, our support, the support of the delegation for robust funding will be forthcoming based on the commitments that are being made here today. So congratulations for an amazing effort. Back to you, Governor. Thanks very much.
Thank you, thank you. And thank you all. And first, just wanted to again say what a deep level of not just appreciation that I have, and to all the members of the council for both serving as partners inside this work and also for giving me the opportunity and the honor of now serving as a second year as chair. This is an exciting moment. It's an exciting moment because I think we've been able to show during this moment that progress is absolutely possible and that our communities are worth fighting for. And getting this right in this moment, that it really does matter. And we do have a unique opportunity, and I want to make sure that, that Josh hears me loud and clear, that we will soar like the Orioles and soar like the Ravens. That this does become a unique chance for us. A unique chance to be able to get it right. And I know that we've been working together for 41 years. And I know during that time, we've seen some really perilous situations. We've seen some incredibly complicated terms, and we have seen times when people just did not see eye to eye. The beautiful thing about what we're seeing right here is those days are done. We're all collective. We're all focused. We all understand the assignment, and we are all ready to do the work. And so while we know there are challenging days ahead, and we know there are real complications on things that we have to be able to get done, we have to move forward with focus that is measurable, focus that actually proves for results, and a focus on the people. And knowing that even when it's complicated, in the words of Sir William Ernest Hensley, that it finds and shall find us unafraid. This is a time when we have to move unafraid. And I'm gonna be, very honest. It was interesting because I remember when I was first running for governor, we spoke a lot about the Bay and the importance of the Bay and the importance of getting the environment right. And for a lot of people, they're like, that's not really the background. And it is true. I didn't come up around or really fully understanding the importance of the Bay. I had a very different lens than the lens that I see with my children, who's some of the earliest and most powerful memories that I have of a father, or as a father, was taking my kids crabbing and fishing and swimming and enjoying something that for many people in this room and for many who came before us, that we made sure that my children could have that relationship with the Bay. And now you are not going to find greater champions of the Bay than the two Moore kids. And I know that in all the work that I am doing and we are collectively doing, we're fighting on their behalf. We're their advocates. We are their champions. We're going to be the ones to make sure that they have a chance to not just continue to enjoy it, but that even for their future generations, that they will have a unique opportunity to enjoy it as well. And so the Principal Staff Committee knows, and we are so grateful for the work that they are doing, because they will continue and will be working collectively to update the commitment that we have made in 2014 with new and measurable outcomes to not only restore the health of the Chesapeake Bay, but to also do it with a renewed focus on supporting the people. Because it's not just a reminder to all of us that whether or not you fully appreciated coming up, that whether we are talking about the air we are breathing or the water we are drinking, whether we're talking about extreme heat islands or whether we're talking about air quality, that the health of the Bay matters to all of us, and specifically to the 18 million people in the watershed, which incorporates people from each and every one of our jurisdictions, and all of them who would agree with our goal to restore the Chesapeake Bay and its watershed, but that the vast majority of them, they don't care about how many pounds of nitrogen enters the Bay every day or how many milligrams per liter of dissolved oxygen there is in the deep trench of the Bay. But what they do know is they want their kids to be able to play safely in streams. What they do know is that they want to be able to climb trees and safely walk and play with their dogs. What they do know is that for so many of their family and friends, or even for them, that the industries that they rely on and that they have relied on for generations, that they rely on a healthy Chesapeake Bay. And frankly, we haven't done a good enough job to being able to advocate for that and engaging all people as our partners in this effort. But that will and must change in the incoming years, where every person that is a resident of one of our jurisdictions needs to understand not just the why, but the how, and their own collective responsibility to get it right. We must do a better job of engaging all of our communities and all of our residents, all of them, as stewards in restoring the Bay and restoring the watershed. Otherwise, we know we will never be successful. And that's why the Principal Staff Committee and their work will bring to bear not just the updated agreement, but also something that shows about how we're going to make sure we're sharing this with everybody. And we're really proud of the fact that a lot of this is work that is happening in the state of Maryland. And I want to give a special shout to Secretary Kurtz, our Secretary of DNR. For just the outstanding work that he has done, and also the work of so many of our other colleagues, Secretary Addix and Secretary Flores, and our Chief Sustainability Officer, Megan Conklin, how you will see here in the state of Maryland, this is a collective effort. We do not look at sustainability of the Bay nor the environment as a lane. We look at it as a lens. It's something that each and every person, each and every member of our administration understands that they have a collective responsibility for and collective benchmarks to be able to make sure we're achieving it. And so during the past 3 years, Maryland watermen have harvested more oysters in the public fishery compared to any 3-year period since 1993, generating millions of dollars of income. And this past year, I signed the whole Watershed Act. And I want to give a big thank you to one of its authors who's sitting in front of me right here, Senator Love, who I just want to say, and now Senator Love, just want to say what a joy it is to be able to work with you and what an honor it was to add a signature to a fantastic piece of legislation, who championed this legislation to make sure that we will enable environmental agencies in Maryland to work together to concentrate pollution reduction practices in 5 different watersheds across the state. The goal is to provide a cleaner waterways and community benefits faster to local areas. Madam Senator, thank you for your leadership in making that happen. And it's also why I am very proud to announce today that in the next year, when our legislature comes back to Annapolis, I will personally be introducing a piece of legislation and personally pursuing a new Bay Legacy Bill that will increase regenerative farming practices on public lands. In doing so, it will help to create new opportunities for folks of all backgrounds to be able to enter into the agricultural industry, which, by the way, is the largest industry in the state of Maryland, and making it less expensive to get started. We will continue agriculture reforms to provide new opportunities for oyster farms. And we will, well, we're not done yet. And we will create an improved water quality monitoring program within the Department of Natural Resources to ensure that we're comprehensively evaluating the pollution reduction methods that we are pursuing. We are going to continue to move forward and move fast in our state because that is exactly what the people of Maryland demand and require and deserve. And so this will be done. It will be done collectively, and it will be done in partnership. Because now really is the time for us to nurture the seeds that have been planted and continue the work to ensure that the Bay is healthy and productive for years to come. Progress is not inevitable, but it is absolutely possible. And frankly, it's necessary. And we could not have a more hard-charging and ready group of people to go win this battle with. And so I want to thank you all for everything that you've continued to do to not just secure our present, but to secure our future. And know that I'm honored to not just serve as chair now, but I'm honored to serve as your partner for years to come. And so I will now turn the program over to Rachel Felver, who is going to help to lead with questions amongst the press.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, everybody. I know we are running over, but we still would like to take about 5 minutes or so for questions, if that works for folks. So who in the room first? Yes.
Hi, Governors and Dignitaries. Scott Broom, Climate and Science reporter, WUSA 9 and Environment. Couple questions. One is just the incoming Trump administration, some reflections on that. And second, there was a lot of discussion today about accountability, setting goals, et cetera. The TMDLs, we aren't even close over the past 14 years. And we're talking about redrawing these goals or resetting them. To the governors, do you all advocate resetting these TMDLs higher, or in the words of Governor Youngkin, more realistically perhaps? Some reflections on that, please.
Well, let me just start with the last comment. I committed early on in our administration that the goals didn't need to be changed. We just need more time to achieve them. We've made great progress in many of them, but I do think that the time frames that were set in a previous administration were unrealistic, particularly given the plan and the funding level. And that's why when we got started in 2022, we incorporated aggressive plans focused on the most impactful areas of investing. And then, as I said, in partnership with our General Assembly, worked hard to fund those very impactful elements, particularly the agriculture best management practices, which have shown substantial impact. I also believe the pay for performance programs that Delegate Bulova discussed earlier will continue to incentivize even a broader participation across the Commonwealth in the agriculture community. So from my perspective, I don't believe we should back off. I just think we need to make sure that we've got a plan to achieve them.
Another question?
Yes, thank you. I know that one thing that we are committed to is we're committed to making sure that we're serving the people of our jurisdictions. We all collectively understand the importance of this work. We all collectively understand the importance of making sure that we have a clean and a habitable bay, and one that is going to be served and protected. And so we look forward to working with the new administration to make sure that those goals are met. We know that that there were some things that were said before in the past, in the past Trump administration, that were not fulfilled on in terms of pullbacks of investments in the Bay. And we look forward to working with the new administration to ensure that that our collective goal of making sure that we can protect the Bay is one that is fulfilled and one that is followed.
Thank you, and I think we have a question online, if you want to read it. And just say who it's from, Jake.
Yeah, this question is from Kate Ryan, WTOP, Washington, D.C. Can we get an example of what efforts on shallow water preservation would be? How does that differ from deep water preservation efforts? Does the emphasis on shallow water represent backtracking from deep water efforts?
So I can take that briefly and ask anybody who else wants to join in. It doesn't represent a backtracking on deep water at all, but what it's actually asking is for a renewed emphasis on shallow water. There is a different type of ecosystem. There's a different type of focus area. There's different type of collective data that is taken from shallow water. And so the emphasis on saying that we want to have more information and more supports for shallow water is not saying that we don't find the deep water to be important. It is just simply saying that we have to be able to do both things at the same time, and we believe that there is pullback and there's supports for shallow water supports and developments that were not there, that we need to have a greater level of emphasis on.
One more question?
Hi, Christine Condon from The Sun. I just wanted to ask, mostly, I guess, Governor Moore and also the acting deputy administrator, whether there were any conversations today about sort of the larger accountability framework and backstop measures and sort of how we avoid repeating history and falling short on goals again.
Thank you. I can take it first if you like. The conversations that we've had is how we're actually going to work with the PSC and work with our teams here to ensure that we have goals that are not just aspirational but achievable. And so the thing that we know is that with everybody's participation that we see here, and again, we're literally talking about from New York and West Virginia, or Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, Washington, DC, et cetera, is that everyone is now collectively understands what exactly the assignment is, and knowing that we will work with the PSC to both be able to re-examine the 2014 agreement and how that applies to the work that we are going to be doing going forward. And that is going to be the collective accountability measures that we're going to have for ourselves.
Yeah, and if I could just follow up on that, there was a discussion with regards to measurable outcomes, as Governor Moore has indicated. As I mentioned in my remarks, one of the key elements to the success of the Bay program is having those measurable outcomes and accountability, and working very much with the partnership groups that we talked about here, whether it's local government, agricultural community, and a part of that is being able to monitor our progress.
All right, great. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm sorry that's all we have time for today.